Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Excited to be bringing you these top 12 religious Easter DIYs today. For DIY number 1, we're going to revisit these Jesus stones and cross using some of the foam dice, some poster sticker letters, and this chunky wood cross from Dollar Tree. So I am going to take my white Waverly chalk paint and I am going to paint these dice. Now last week you saw me cover these dice with balloons. You could definitely do that as well. I find when you are painting these dice that you're going to want to do like the top and then halfway down, and then once those are dry, flip them over and do the bottom until you have them completely painted. Now I'm going to take this chunky wood cross and I'm going to remove the hanger from it, and I am choosing to paint my cross with this dark gray. This is, I believe, elephant. Then coming back to my stones, once they are dry from the white paint, I am taking the poster sticker letters to spell out Jesus. Then once I have those stickers in place, I am going to seal them on with some matte finish Mod Podge just over this front side of the stones to make sure our sticker letters don't peel off and they stay on our stones. We're going to let that dry. We're going to come back in with our elephant and we're going to add a little bit of distressing on our foam dice here to make them look a little bit more like stones. You can see I'm kind of going around the front edges, around the letter, and then doing some streaking however much you'd like on the visible parts of the stones. Now coming to the cross, I'm going to do the same type of thing with my light gray, which is called mineral. We just want to give some texture to these pieces so they just don't look too perfectly painted. You can also blend in your paint with the mini sander, go back in with more streaks. You can keep going back and forth until you get the look that you want. I'm also going to take that light gray, the mineral, and go over the stones again one more time until I achieve the look that I'm going for. Once the cross is dry, I'm going to take a little bit of jute twine and I'm going to glue the end to the back. And I'm just going to wrap around the top portion of the cross here. This is how I'm going to decoratively cover up the hole that had the hanger on this cross originally when it was purchased from Dollar Tree. The last thing I'm going to do for my cross here is take this little wooden heart and I'm going to stain it with my antique wax, and we're going to add this right to the center of our cross. We're just going to hot glue that down into place. Now you can seal these stones if you'd like to seal the paint with Mod Podge, but I think these are a really simple and great testament to what Easter is about. DIY number 2 is going to be this cross pennant. We're going to use a frame from Dollar Tree, this pennant, some burlap ribbon, and first of all, I don't even know if they carry these pennants anymore. Sometimes I still see them in Dollar Tree. You can just flip it over if you don't want to mess with taking all of that paper off, but I'm going to put some Mod Podge down and then place down a springy looking piece of scrapbook paper. Press it down on the Mod Podge and press it out to make sure we get out any air bubbles. Then go ahead and do another layer over the top. Now I will say you can make this project without the pennant. You can skip that part, start here with a frame, any size. If you're doing it without the pennant, you could do a much larger frame, but we're going to use this frame on top of the pennant. It was kind of a grayish color though, so I'm lightening it up with my white Waverly chalk paint, just going all the way around the front and the side edges. Coming back to my pennant, I am going to use my little fingertip knife to remove the excess of my scrapbook paper. And here you can see what the frame will look like on the front of the pennant. Now what I'm going to do before I glue down my frame is I'm going to take 2 pieces of this burlap ribbon, one that is going to go down the frame vertically here. Don't make it too super tight because we are going to be gathering it in the center where the cross would be. So you want it not super loose, but also not super tight either. So I'm going to hot glue that down, and then we're going to do another piece horizontally a little bit higher than center to make a rough cross here. I would say really make sure your glue is dry before you stretch the ribbon to glue the other side. And by the way, these Dollar Tree kitchen spatulas work great to not hurt your fingers. Now, my burlap was pretty tight and thick, so I'm actually going to do 2 pieces of twine. I'm going to do this first one around the front piece, and you can see I'm just tying it in the middle to make it kind of come in together. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back piece. And we're just going to make our 2 pieces of ribbon more into the shape of a cross. The next thing I'm going to do is go through my wood hearts, and I'm going to look for one that's the right size. I just want to glue one right there in the middle to cover up the jute twine. And then we're going to figure out where we want that frame to sit on our pennant and go ahead and put some hot glue all the way around that and secure it down to the front of our pennant. And that's all there is to it. Again, you can do this craft just with the frame and the ribbon if you don't want to add the extra layer of the pennant sign. For DIY number 3, I'm going to show you how to take a composition notebook and turn it into a prayer journal using some scrapbook paper, some of this elastic, and what else are we going to use? Some Mod Podge. But first we're going to take our scrapbook paper and we're going to find the pieces that we want to use. And I'm just going to kind of mark where I need to cut it. We're going to trim these down. I am doing cardstock or scrapbook paper on the front and back covers, as well as the inside and the of the front and back covers. So you're going to need 4 different pieces. So you see here, I'm just tracing those out and getting all my paper cut. Okay, now that we have all of our scrapbook paper ready, I'm just putting a piece of copy paper underneath my front cover. I'm going to put Mod Podge all over that front cover and then press down that piece that I cut out for the front. You can see I do have it overlapping a little bit, and then I'm going to take my fingertip knife once that's dry and trim around the edges to get it nice and flush with the front of the notebook. Now I just use the composition notebooks from Walmart. I usually buy a bunch when they come out for school supplies time. I am going to decorate the front of my covers. This is not necessary. I'm going to use a couple of my Magnolia stencils. This one says work hard, pray harder. I'm just going to stencil the word pray on here. So far all I've done is the very front cover of our journal. I'm just going to place my stencil down and then use some of our chalk paste to stencil that word pray. Now for my inside piece on the inside of the front cover, I'm going to use score tape here. You could definitely use Mod Podge for both the outside and inside, but I didn't want to risk any of my pages sticking together, so I'm going to use score tape. You can see how I've kind of got it covering the entire backside of the cardstock, and then once you remove all the backings from your score tape, it'll be nice and sticky. And then I'm just going to line that up on the edge there of my cover, press it down really well, and then if there is any hanging over, I can just trim that up with my little Fiskars fingertip knife there. So now we have the inside and outside of the front cover done. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my inside for my back cover. Now before we stick the page on the back outside, I am going to make a little pen loop here. So I am going to trim a piece of paper here that is going to fit inside the barrel of these pens. These are the what are these called? Pentel, I think they are, where you can take the ink part out and put some decorative paper in there and then put the ink part of the pen back in. This is just a really simple way to make your pen a little more decorative to go with your journal. Now I'm going to take some of this elastic that I buy on Amazon, and I'm kind of stretching it a little bit and kind of measuring where I'm going to need to glue this. Notice I have not put the scrapbook paper on the back cover because I want it to hide this elastic, and I want this to be attached only to the back cover here where I'm gluing it, and then it's going to be able to be a band that can go around the front of the journal to keep it closed. It is not glued to the front. See, we can just loop it off and it's just attached to the back there. So now that we have our elastic in place, now we can put our scrapbook paper on the back of our journal. Once that's all dry and in place, I am going to put a sheet of copy paper under there and go ahead and do Mod Podge over that back cover just to kind of seal it in, since this is going to be the outside. Next, I'm going to take another little piece of the elastic and I am going to make a little pen loop that will attach to the elastic that goes all the way around the book. So you can see I've hot glued it, and then I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to stick it in there. Let me glue that all the way to the back. There we go. Then I'm going to take my pen and wrap it around the pen so I can see how tightly I need to glue that elastic. And this is just a really simple pen loop. Trim off the excess of your elastic there, and now you can give this as a nice little gift set or always have it so that your pen is always with you with your journal. And I love these. These make really inexpensive, fun little gifts. I did seal the front cover with the Mod Podge as well. For DIY number 4, we're going to make a religious Easter porch sign using whatever piece of wood you have for a surface and these MDF letters from Walmart. So I don't even remember where I got this. This was probably a thrift store find. I do know that Michael's and Hobby Lobby sell large pieces of wood that can be used for porch sitters, but feel free to look at places like Home Depot and Lowe's and places like that too. So I wanted mine to be a nice dark stained look, so I am going to do each section with my antique wax. Now coming to my letters, these are 8-inch letters, like I said, from Walmart, and I am using, I believe this is Agave Waverly chalk paint to paint the fronts of each of my letters as well as the side edges. Now, once those are dry, I am going to take this patterned stencil from Magnolia. I believe this one is called Flower Power, and you can use any pattern stencil actually that you'd like. I'm going to fuzz this, and then I'm going to lay this over my letters. Once they are dry, we're going to use some white chalk paste and add a really pretty floral pattern to the fronts of our letters. And here's the peel and reveal. Isn't that so cute? It just adds a whole nother dimension to your letters. Of course, do your other letters as well. Next, I'm going to take some purple felt. I'm sure I grabbed this from Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and I am just going to cut some pieces. I'm cutting like some squares, and then I'm going to round the corners. What I'm going to make with these are some little felt rosettes or little flowers. So once I have it cut kind of rounded, I am going to start on the outside, and you can see I'm kind of spiraling in with my cuts, trying to keep the width of the skinny piece there around the same. And I'm just going to keep going until I get to a little circle here in the middle. Then starting with that circle, or starting with the outside, sorry, I'm going to start rolling my little spiral, I guess, of felt until we get a nice center. And then we're just going to keep going until we get to the end where we left a little circle. And then that is going to glue to be the bottom of our flower. So I think you can see it's pretty simple and self-explanatory. You're just going to kind of keep rolling it and make the little rosette flower. It'll start to flare out a little bit as you get to those bigger pieces, and then the little circle there on the that's left, we're going to just put hot glue on the bottom of our flower and put that little flap over. So I'm going to make, I think I made, yeah, you can see how many I made there out of purple, and then I'm also going to make some out of white. Once I've made all the felt flowers that I want, you can see I'm going to put them 3 purple ones and then a white one in the middle. I'm just kind of arranging them how I want them, just adding a little bit more of a decorative touch. If you are not interested in making a porch sign, maybe you want to use these felt flowers for something else, but I think they're a really fun and easy, inexpensive thing to add decoration to your projects. So down here, I'm going to do 3 white with a purple, just kind of the opposite. And you can see I've got the words Risen there spelled out with the Walmart letters. For DIY number 5, we're going to make this cross out of tumbling tower blocks and also add it to a stenciled sign. I love thrifting for frames, and what I'm going to do is I'm now taking 5-gallon paint stir sticks to see how many it's going to take to completely cover the back of this frame. This frame is really nice wood, but it's kind of that shiny wood. So I am going to take my white Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to give it a coat of this white paint. I may not cover all of the wood, but definitely use your preference if you want to cover it all the way. Keep it how it is, or do another color. Now I cut all those 5-gallon paint sticks down so I know they're going to fit inside the back of the frame, and now I am staining these with my antique wax. Once those are all dry, we're going to take our hot glue and glue one of those into the back of the frame at a time. This is going to give us a really nice shiplap looking backing to this sign. You do not have to worry about painting the back if you don't want to. You can look at how beautiful that is. And I would go around like I'm showing here where all the ends of the pieces are. Just fill that in with some hot glue so they don't come out. Now, this cross we're going to make with 36 tumbling tower blocks. I suggest going back and screenshotting where I showed you what this cross is going to look like. But you're going to take wood glue, or here I'm using the super glue gel, and you're going to glue all your blocks together in small little sections, okay? So you can see I'm gluing maybe 3 or 4 blocks together in sections that are going to be straight. And I will try to put maybe attached to this somehow. I don't know if I can put a picture in the description, but maybe I can upload a file that shows. But like I said, if you screenshot what it looks like, this is how you're going to lay out your blocks to get this cross shape made out of the tumbling tower blocks. Like that one that's sticking out is at the halfway point between the one above it and below it. So once you have your cross all glued together and it is dry, then you can paint it. I am taking my Agave Waverly chalk paint. You can see I am not completely painting it. I like the rustic look of some of the wood showing through. So I painted it and then went ahead and sanded it a little bit, wiping away any of the excess there. And then we are going to, I'm just kind of spritzing it a little bit to get the rest of that dust off, wiping that off with a paper towel. And even if you don't want to make the whole sign, this is a really fun Jenga block or tumbling tower block cross to make. Now I am going to take a Magnolia stencil, and this says, "While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." I am going to take this and stencil this over on the left-hand side of my sign here that we made with the 5-gallon paint sticks, pressing this down really well. I'm going to use a teal chalk paste that matches our cross, and then also some white. I love this so much. And then now we're going to take our cross and I'm going to glue it to the front of the frame. I'm just kind of putting some pencil marks where I need to put glue so that it can attach the cross to the frame. I love this sign. This is one of my favorite projects I've ever made, and I hope you enjoy it and will give it a try yourself. For DIY number 6, we're going to make this triple cross centerpiece using 3 of these rectangular wood trays from Dollar Tree, as well as 3 of these hanging crosses from Dollar Tree, some floral foam, and some greenery. So first I'm going to take my wood glue and I'm going to glue these 3 trays together on the short side to make one long piece. Next, I'm going to take some wood filler and fill in the holes for my 3 crosses from Dollar Tree. If your Dollar Tree doesn't have those, you can definitely find small wood crosses at places like Walmart or Hobby Lobby. Once my wood glue is dry, I'm going to take my antique wax on a baby wipe and I am going to stain all the way around my trays. Then coming back to the crosses, I want to make these a little bit darker. So I'm actually using a paintbrush to brush on the antique wax and then wipe off the excess with a paper towel. I want them to end up being a little bit darker color than my tray is going to be. Next, we're going to take some floral foam from Dollar Tree. I'm going to hot glue it into our wooden trays here, and we're going to make place for us to be able to poke in the 3 crosses. Now, I am making that middle section a little taller because we want the cross in the middle to be higher than the other 2. Once I have the floral foam in place, I am going to hot glue some reindeer moss over that. We want to cover up that green floral foam, and then we're going to do that over all of the floral foam pieces. Then taking one of the crosses, we're going to poke that into the center. Then slightly behind, we're going to poke one into the right hand side and also on the left. You can see how they're kind of staggered there. Then instead of using moss for the rest, I'm going to take some of these pebbles from Dollar Tree and use those to fill in the rest of the space of the trays. Then just taking some little eucalyptus or whatever you have, you could also do flowers on the bottom if you'd like. Just fill in more of that space. Super simple. I love this. You could even put some purple felt on the middle cross where Jesus was. DIY number 7 is going to be this Easter cross window decor using this arched window, some tumbling tower blocks, a crate from Dollar Tree as well. Now I'm using actual Jenga blocks here for this one, or they maybe are a knockoff, I don't know. But they're a little bit bigger than the tumbling tower blocks. I am using these, I'm gluing 3 together, 3 together, and then 6 together. We're going to add these around the crate just to make this project a little more substantial. Once I have those pieces dried, I am going to paint those white to kind of match the color of the arched window as well. We will also paint our wood crate from Dollar Tree with the white Waverly chalk paint. Next, coming to our arch window, we are going to give this a little touch up with the white paint as well. I mean, it's already white, but it's kind of dull. So we're just going to go over it to make it match everything else. Now, I am setting this crate right in the middle of that little platform we made out of the tumbling tower blocks and then gluing the sets of 3 onto the sides. I wanted this to be a little bit larger so that it better fits the width of the arched window. Next, I'm going to take my mineral, my light gray Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to add some distressing to the window and also to our crate box here that we added onto the crate just to give it a little more texture. Of course, this is completely optional for you to do if you so choose. Next, I'm going to take another of these chunky wood crosses from Dollar Tree. You can see I filled in the hole with some wood filler, and I'm going to paint that with truffle. Then I'm going to come to one of these wood word stickers from Hobby Lobby and paint that white. Now, I realized I needed 3 more blocks that I'm going to wood glue on the back of our little stand here, and you'll see why we're going to do that in a second. I put the word grace right on top of the cross, and then I have this little grapevine wreath that I'm going to glue there on the top. It might have been a little too big, but the reason I put these other 3 blocks here is so that I can set the little window there onto it, reinforce it on the back with some hot glue as well, just so it's going to stand up and not fall off. We're going to add some floral foam into our crate. We're going to put some hot glue on the back of our cross and glue that right to the center of our window. I'm loving how this is turning out. The last thing I'm going to do is, like we did in the previous project, add some of this reindeer moss on top of the floral foam with some hot glue just to cover it up, make it look a little more decorative. And then you can add whatever Eastery type florals you would like. I'm using some of these lavender little flowers and some little lavender picks as well. And here's our finished project. I love this, and I think just adding those blocks around the crate really elevates the look of this project. For DIY number 8, we're going to make some really simple cross place markers for your Easter dinner using some mini pots, some foam, some bamboo skewers. So I'm going to take my pots and give them kind of a dry brushing type of look of some white Waverly chalk paint, going a little bit onto the inside, but you don't need to do the entire inside. Then I'm going to use my bamboo skewers and some antique wax. I am going to use these to make some little crosses. So we're going to have some pieces that we're going to keep big, and then we're going to cut some pieces off. So we need a longer piece that's going to stand vertically, and then we're going to have a piece that we're going to glue horizontally to be our cross. Now, that is not very sturdy by itself, but we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to come in with some twine here, and we're going to weave it kind of in an X shape across where the 2 sticks are glued together. I think that made sense. You can see what I'm doing. So it's basically to reinforce them, hold them together, but I kind of like it, gives it an extra little decorative look. Add some reindeer moss there, and then poke in your cross. These would be cute just like this. Throw a few jelly beans in there, but I want to take some more of this purple felt and just make a little strip that's going to hang on each of the crosses like this. So cut your strip, cut it a little shorter if you need to, and then you're just going to add some glue in a couple places to keep it hanging on the cross. Doesn't that add so much, just adding that? I love it. The last thing I'm going to do is take some tumbling tower blocks, and I'm just writing our family members' names on them. You can just set that at the base of the cross like that, and then change out the names as you need. I love these. I love using these at our Easter dinner table. For DIY number 9, we're going to make this framed window with Easter decor. We're going to use 4 frames that are the same. You're going to want to make sure you use frames that have flat, straight edges. We're removing the backings, everything. We don't need anything except for the frame itself. So I am going to now glue the 2 frames together, and then the other set of 2, we're going to glue them. These are plastic. I'm using a combination of E6000 and hot glue. Okay, so we're going to glue these side to side, and then once they are glued, I'm going to clamp them together kind of right there in the middle. I think I would use the big clamps for this like I'm showing here. While those are drying, I'm going to take 4 of these 5-gallon paint sticks, and I am going to darken them up. You see I have 2 cut at 16.5 inches and 2 at 15.5 inches. Those measurements, though, are for these 5x7 frames that I have. So watch what I'm going to do, and then you'll see where you need to cut your 5-gallon paint sticks. Now I'm going to glue my 2 pairs together here. You can see I'm making a window shape, and this is still the backs of my frames. Then I'm going to take some of these jumbo craft sticks and we're going to hot glue those across those seams just to make it a little more sturdy. Cut a couple other small pieces and glue those across. So here's what it looks like on the front. Now, this is what I'm doing with the paint sticks. I have one paint stick that is the entire height of the window. And then I have 2 of those. And then the shorter ones are going all the way across the bottom, but also across the extra width of the paint sticks. I am just hot gluing these into place. This just makes it look a little bit more like a realistic window. Now you can see that bottom piece is also going under the sticks that we placed on the side. I think that makes sense. And then you can add some more of the craft sticks on the back to go over where the paint sticks are connected to the frames. Once everything is glued together and secured, I'm just cleaning up any glue that may have seeped through between the frames or the paint sticks. Now I'm going to take some white and we're going to go over this, not completely, but we want to kind of blend these in. So you can see there, I'm going over it. Then I'm going to go over it with some other color and kind of sand it a little bit to blend everything together. Now that is your basic window that we can use to modify for other seasons. So now I'm going to show you a few different Eastery things. First, we're going to take this bunny shape off of a Dollar Tree Easter sign. It's already white, but I'm just going to sand it and smooth it out a little bit. Give it a nice fresh coat of white chalk paint and make it look nice and fresh and new. We will glue the little bow back on once it's dry. I'm also going to take one of these crosses. Honestly, I think this one is from Walmart in the craft section, and I'm going to paint this white as well. I'm going to make 3 different things that you can add to your window for Easter. I decided I wanted to take some antique wax and go around the edges of the bunny just to give it a little more dimension. You could use distress ink for this instead if you would prefer. Next, I'm going to take one of these removable hooks from Dollar Tree. The only big ones I could find were silver, so I am going to take a minute and just paint this white so that it blends into our project a little bit better. You can use smaller ones as well. Now, this is what's going to make this project interchangeable for different seasons. I have just a really simple little wreath here that I made. Once we put the bunny's bow back on, we're just going to make a really simple twine hanger for the back. I'm just kind of measuring how far it needs to be so that our bunny can hang right in the center of our wreath. So on the hook there, I've got the wreath on there, and then you can hang the bunny if you'd like. Then we're also going to do something similar for the cross. So I'm going to take another strip of the purple felt and we're going to add this to the cross. I think I needed something to be a little bit longer. There we go. We're going to make it a little bit longer, and we're going to tack this onto our cross here to be our purple cloth that is going to hang. And you can see I'm just trimming some pieces and adding them to each other to make them hang and be able to be seen a little bit better. So just glue those on where you want them. You could use ribbon too if you'd like. And then we're going to put a little hanger on the back of the cross as well so that it can hang in the center of the wreath too. So my idea for this is you could have the wreath and maybe the bunny at the beginning of spring, and then when it turns to the month that is Easter, you could change it out to the cross. So there's the window by itself, just with the wreath. Now the wreath with the bunny in the middle, and the wreath with the cross. I'd love to know what you guys thought of this project, and I look forward to making other sets that you could add to the window for different seasons. DIY 10, we're going to make this wood sign with a cross and wreath. We're going to use some more tumbling tower blocks, some 5-gallon paint sticks, a wreath, and some paint. Okay, so I'm using 148 tumbling tower blocks to make this sign. The outside frame are double thick. So you can see I am gluing these together as sandwich cookies. So once you glue all these pairs, let's see, you're gonna need 24, 33 pairs. Okay, so that's your 66. Then once those pairs are done, you're gonna make 3 sticks that are 8 pairs long. So there's 4. You're gonna make 8 pairs long, okay? That's for your outside. Then for the inside, the vertical pieces are going to be sticks of 8, and you're going to have 5 of those. So I'm gluing 8 blocks together, and I'm going to do that 5 times. You can see those there. Now all the rest of the blocks going horizontal are individual blocks. Okay, there's 42 of those. So these are my pairs that are going around the outside frame. I have 8 pairs, 8 pairs, 8 pairs, and 9 pairs. And I am going to paint these with antique wax. Now my inside pieces, these 5 sticks, remember they are 8 blocks long. I'm going to do all of those white as well as the individual 42 blocks. I'm not bothering painting the sides because we're going to be gluing all these together. All right, so this vertical piece is 8 pairs, and the one at the bottom is also 8 pairs. You can see I glued the one going up to the bottom one there. Now, all these little white individual blocks, I am gluing those right where there are 2 pairs glued together. I think you can see that. That's how I could match them up there, is I'm getting that line going right in the middle. Then I'm going to glue one of my long sticks of 8. And I'm going to keep doing this going all the way across my grid here. I'm showing you one step at a time. Okay, so there's my 7 more, and then a stick of 8, 7 more individual blocks, and a stick of 8. And then we're going to keep going until we get to this last set of 7 here. And then we're going to glue that last stick of pairs, and there are 9 pairs. Now, I know this goes super fast. Count them out, lay them out. If you want me to send you the slower version of this project, let me know. But this is what it looks like when you have them all glued. All right, let that dry. That wood glue needs a good amount of time to dry. So then what I'm doing is taking 2 pieces of 5-gallon paint stick. I'm going to glue these together as a cross, but I'm using stickers to do amazing down the vertical piece, and then grace. I didn't have another C, so I took an O and cut a little piece out of it. And notice I didn't glue the 2 cross pieces together until I knew exactly that A was going to be in the middle of both words. Once that's glued together, we're going to add a wreath. This is optional. I'm using just an embroidery hoop and some greenery. This is definitely the longer, harder way to make a wreath. I am gluing all these little individual pieces on here. Of course, you can go to Hobby Lobby and just buy a wreath that is ready made, but I'm just going to keep going around the circle until I have it as full and fluffy as I want. Then I'm just going to hang the wreath and the cross in the middle of my sign here. And here's our finished project. This is a larger project, definitely a labor of love. You could use the mixed blocks now, using the brown ones for the outside and the natural ones for the inside, and not have to do as much painting. For DIY 11, we're gonna make an Easter lily and cross wreath. We're gonna use a pool noodle, some more paint sticks, some florals, some burlap ribbon, some duct tape, and let's see, I think maybe some newspaper. So I'm going to take a pool noodle, and then I'm going to take some newspaper to make kind of a plug for one end. I'm going to tie that together with some duct tape. I'm going to stick it in one end and hot glue it there. This is kind of like those necklaces that have the tubes, but we're making our plug out of newspaper, and then it's going to get a lot of hot glue on it. And then we're going to stick the other end into the other side of the pool noodle, tape it off, and voila, we've made a pool noodle wreath. I am going to reinforce that with the tape. I don't want this to come apart. All right, then we're going to take some burlap ribbon, and we're just going to start wrapping. You can use the thin burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree as well. You want it to cover completely so that you don't see the green pool noodle, you don't see the black tape or whatever color tape you've used. You're just going to wrap it overlapping until you get your entire ring covered. Once that's done, we're going to take two 1-gallon paint sticks this time, and I have two pieces that I've cut. We're going to make another cross, and I am staining these with antique wax, brushing it on, and then we'll wipe off the excess. Then once those are dry, we can glue those together just using a little bit of hot glue there. Make sure they're nice and firm. I did get some Easter lilies from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut these apart as separate little pieces with these shears here. Notice I did push the leaves up closer to the flower. Now, the great thing about using pool noodles for wreaths is you can poke the stems of the flowers into the pool noodle, or you can just glue them to the burlap there. You can see I'm using hot glue to reinforce, and I'm just going to put these on the bottom. Then I'm going to start poking some in and reinforcing them with hot glue. Once I have my lilies kind of evenly distributed on each side, I'm going to take some of this purple satin ribbon. You can see all I did with this long piece is kind of folded it down. These are going to be the tails for my cheater ribbon here. Then I'm going to take some more of it, and I'm going to make loops kind of going back and forth. This is not wired ribbon, which would have been much easier to use, but I'm just going to make a series of loops here, and then I'm going to tie it in the middle with some twine, or you can use floral wire if you so choose. So you can see I've got a few loops on either side there, and then I'm going to take another small piece of the ribbon and kind of wrap it around the middle so that you don't see the jute twine. Once that's glued onto your wreath there, you can kind of just fluff out the loops of your bow until you get it how you'd like. Now we're going to come back to our cross, and we're going to do like we did in the very first DIY of this video. We are going to add some jute, and then we're going to wrap it around the cross in an X shape to add some dimension to our cross. Now this is an optional step, but I have these little stems that are just leaves, or these might have just been leaves left over from a project. I am just adding little dots of hot glue and adding in these leaves wherever it seems like it's a little bare and you can see the burlap. So I'm covering up some of those spaces just with some extra leaves. Once I have all the flowers and leaves I want, I am going to glue my cross to the back. I did have to add a tumbling tower block to the top and the bottom of my cross just so I had a little bit more of an anchor to glue to the back of the wreath. So once those are in place, I'm going to put some hot glue down and then we're going to glue our cross to the back of our wreath, getting it as centered as we possibly can. And here's what it looks like hanging on my front door. I absolutely love it. For DIY number 12, we're going to make some simple Easter word blocks. I'm going to use some scraps of wood, this little standing cross from Dollar Tree, some purple paint, and some stencils from Walmart. So I have 5 pieces of wood here. I am going to paint these purple, and these are going to be for the letters for the word Easter except for the T. The T, we're actually going to use this cross and I'm going to paint it white. So we have 5 blocks that are purple and then 1 cross that we are painting white. Of course, you could have used the other side if you want, but I just want a plain white cross. Now this is an optional step, but once my purple paint was dried, I decided I wanted to distress my blocks a little bit. So I'm sanding the edges and a little bit on the top of each block. Now, some of my stencils from Walmart were too big for my blocks. So what I did is I printed out the word Easter on my computer in a cute font, and you can see I am lining up my letters on each of the blocks, just finding ones that are going to fit. Then I cut them out and now I am tracing them on my blocks. This is definitely a lower budget way to do this, but you could use stencils as well if you had them. This takes a little bit longer, but like I said, it's more cost effective. Then I'm going to trace my pencil letters that I traced onto the block. I'm going to trace those with a white paint marker and then color those in with that paint marker as well. And there you go. That's my Easter word blocks. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this video. I would love to know which of these 12 religious Easter projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.